Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. It started with a laugh. His laugh. From my kitchen. He was drinking from my mug. Not just any mug, the one Delia got me on our 3rd anniversary. It had a chipped handle and a faded print that read, "I'd rather be home with my wife." I used to think it was cute. Sentimental. Now, it just sat in his hand like some twisted joke. I didn't slam the door when I walked in. Didn't yell. I just stood there, holding a bag of groceries and watching a stranger sit at my table, barefoot, sipping coffee like he owned the place. Like I didn't exist. Delia walked in a second later, wearing one of my old flannels, laughing at something he said. Her laugh died the second she saw me. Oh, she blinked. "You're early." Yeah, I was. Because the text I got from her said she'd be working late. Because I'd planned to surprise her with that overpriced bottle of white wine she liked. Because I still believed in us. He didn't move. Just leaned back in the chair like this was his Tuesday. Like I was the one who interrupted. Then he smirked. "Guess the surprise is on you, man," he said casually, tipping the mug. "She's mine now." I should have punched him. Screamed. Raged. But I didn't. I smiled. A tired, hollow kind of smile. The kind you make when something inside you quietly breaks and you just accept it. Then I pulled out my phone, opened the video, and pressed play. Their faces changed instantly. "Oh," I said, keeping my eyes on him. "By the way, your wife saw the video." He didn't say a word after that. Delia's lips parted like she wanted to speak, maybe to lie, maybe to explain, but no sound came out. Just that strange silence that fills a room when a bomb goes off and everyone's ears are ringing. I didn't even look at her. My eyes were fixed on him, on the way his smirk dissolved, on how he gripped the mug a little tighter, like it could anchor him to the illusion he'd been living in. I placed the grocery bag on the counter as if nothing happened. The bottle of wine rolled slightly inside. I straightened it with 2 fingers, calm and mechanical. Then I walked over to the table, sat down in the chair opposite him, and folded my hands. "You might want to check your texts," I said. Because while they were playing house in my kitchen, I had already sent the footage to someone very important, his wife, Riley. Sweet woman. We'd met once at some company holiday thing Delia dragged me to. I remembered she wore a green dress with snowflakes on it and called her husband Bear. She'd brought homemade cookies. I guess I always assumed someone like that had the perfect marriage. Turns out, she didn't. Turns out, while I was being invisible in my own house, he was making plans in hers. "I didn't mean for this to happen," Delia finally said, her voice brittle. "It's complicated. Complicated. God, I hate that word now. As if betrayal is some nuanced art form that requires decoding. No, it's pretty simple when you find your wife sneaking another man into your home, into your bed, and into your coffee mugs. I think you should go," I said to him. Not angry, not loud, just done. He stood up, slowly, but before he turned, I added, "By the way, she's been cheating on you too. Not just with me." I let that hang in the air, even though it wasn't true. I didn't know if it was. But judging by the flash of doubt in his eyes, maybe he wasn't so sure either. He left without finishing the coffee. Delia stayed frozen near the hallway, arms crossed like that could protect her from everything crumbling. "Why didn't you just talk to me?" she asked. I laughed. Honest to God laughed. "Talk to you? I've been talking to you for years. You just stopped listening." She didn't cry. Not then. She just stared at me like she couldn't recognize who I was anymore. And maybe that was fair, because I didn't recognize myself either. That night, I didn't sleep in the bedroom. I didn't even stay in the house. I grabbed my laptop, the dog, and a backpack, and I drove to a motel just off Highway 6. The sheets smelled like bleach and the walls were thin, but I slept deeper than I had in months. Not because I was okay, but because I'd finally stopped pretending everything was. And in the morning, my inbox had a message from Riley. Subject line, "We need to talk." Her message sat in my inbox like a ticking clock. I must have hovered over it for 10 full minutes before finally clicking. No hi. No pleasantries, just a single line. "If you're free today, I'd like to meet. I think we owe each other a conversation." There was an address and a time. A coffee shop I vaguely recognized near the downtown arts district. I replied with a simple, "Okay." And for the first time in days, I felt something other than shame sitting in my chest. I wasn't sure if it was curiosity or rage. I got there early and grabbed a table near the back. I couldn't help scanning the room like I was in some bad spy movie, half expecting to see Delia walk in with a new lie, or Bear, with that stupid smirk. But when Riley arrived, she didn't look broken. She didn't even look angry. She looked like someone who'd rehearsed every word she was about to say. She ordered chamomile tea. No cream, no sugar. Then she sat across from me and placed her phone gently on the table between us. I noticed her hand was trembling, even though her face stayed calm. "I watched the video 3 times, she said without flinching. I didn't know what to say to that. I mean, what do you say to the other person caught in your disaster? I never liked Delia, she continued. But I respected her. I thought maybe I just wasn't her type of friend. Turns out, I just wasn't her type of threat. It caught me off guard. How sharp she was. Not dramatic, not cruel. Just matter of fact, like someone reporting the weather after a storm already destroyed the house. I'm sorry. I finally managed, though it felt pathetically small. She shook her head. Don't apologize. You weren't the one sneaking around. Then she leaned in slightly, her voice lowering. But I need to ask, how long has it been going on? The truth? I didn't know. But I told her what I did know, about the messages, the video, the second phone Delia had stashed in a coat pocket I hadn't touched since spring. I told her about the mug, the smirk, the words, she's mine now, and the way my wife looked like she was already planning what lie to tell next. Riley didn't cry. Instead, she laughed. Quiet, almost bitter. You know what hurts the most, she said. That I would have forgiven him if he had just told me. If he had looked me in the eyes and admitted he wanted something else. But no. Instead, he chose cowardice. And coffee in your kitchen. We sat in silence for a while, watching the barista refill cups and wipe counters. Then she said something I'll never forget. They always think they're in control, until someone hits record. That's when she opened her phone and showed me something. A folder of her own. Screenshots. Voicemails. GPS logs. She'd been suspicious for months, but hadn't had the proof, until my message. My video was the final nail. I'm not asking you to help me ruin him, she said. But I think you deserve to know what he's really like. And I have something you'll want to hear. She tapped play on an audio recording. It was faint, but clear enough. His voice, talking to someone I didn't recognize. Laughing. She said she'd never leave him, he said. But once I get access to that savings account, she won't have a choice. I stared at her. What savings account? Riley looked me straight in the eyes. The one Delia opened in both your names. The one with over 40 grand in it. The one she's been draining. I left the coffee shop with a copy of the recording, Riley's number saved in my phone under the name Storm Warning, and a swarm of thoughts clattering inside my skull. A shared account? $40,000? Drained? I didn't even know Delia had access to anything like that. We had our separate checking accounts. Mine was painfully normal, and hers was always low for some reason. The joint savings was something we started years ago, mostly for emergencies. The last time I looked at it, it had maybe $5,000, and that was over a year ago. I hadn't checked since, because I trusted her. Idiot. By the time I pulled into the motel parking lot, my fingers were already typing into my banking app. I hadn't even taken my coat off. I sat in the driver's seat with the screen glowing in my lap, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear myself think. The login failed twice because I was shaking. The third time it went through. Balance. $1,276. 52. I blinked. Hit refresh. Same number. I scrolled the transaction history, expecting some sort of mistake. But the withdrawals were there. Incremental, methodical. Not all at once. Just enough every few weeks to avoid raising flags. Transfers to a linked account I didn't recognize. The name? K. Duval. The same K who sent her that "can't wait to have you again" message. I don't know if I screamed or whimpered, but either way, the guy in the next parking space gave me a weird look before locking his door and hurrying into his room. I sat there frozen, watching years of my money disappear in slow, cruel lines. And Delia never said a word. Not once. She let me pay for her car repairs, her mother's physical therapy, a surprise weekend getaway to Vermont last fall. I just thought she was stressed with work. She said her job cut hours. She said the dental bill wiped her out. She said she'd pay me back. All lies. At 2:03 a.m., I texted Riley. Me. Do you have banking access too? Riley, yes. But I moved everything last month. He never noticed. I stared at that message, stunned. Riley wasn't just sharp. She was 2 steps ahead. She wasn't looking to cry in a corner or wait for karma. She was planning something. Something bigger. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel alone. The next morning, Delia called. I let it ring. She texted next. We need to talk. Please come home. I didn't reply. She called again. I finally picked up, kept my voice flat. What do you want? I know you're mad. I get it. But you don't understand. This isn't what you think. Really? I said. Because what I think is that you and your boyfriend stole nearly $40,000 from the account you promised we'd use for our future. Silence. You don't know the full story, she said eventually. Then tell me who K. Duval is. Another silence. This one longer. That's complicated. There it was again. That word. Complicated. Like it was some mystical shield against consequences. I hung up without saying goodbye. Then I forwarded the recording and the banking logs to a lawyer I hadn't spoken to since my aunt died. I told him I needed advice. Urgently. He replied in under an hour. We scheduled a meeting for the following day. As I zipped up my overnight bag and packed the few remaining things I hadn't already taken, I looked at the ring on my finger. I couldn't decide if taking it off felt like weakness or freedom. I placed it in the motel drawer, right next to the old Bible and the hotel notepad. Let it sit there with all the other things people abandon. Because I was done being the fool in someone else's story. I never thought silence could be louder than a scream, until I changed the locks on the house we used to share. The locksmith came in the early afternoon, barely made small talk, didn't ask questions. He just did the job, collected his check, and handed me the new keys with a nod. For a second, I stood there on the porch, staring at the front door like it was a grave. Every memory behind it now felt rewritten. Every dinner, every movie night, every stupid inside joke now covered in dust I couldn't brush off. Delia still didn't know I'd come home. That's what made it perfect. I took my time walking through the house, room by room, like I was checking into a stranger's life. Her shoes were still by the door. Her perfume still lingered in the bathroom. But something had shifted. This wasn't our space anymore. It was just a stage where I'd been performing the role of loving husband, while she rehearsed betrayal with someone else. I opened her closet and started boxing up her things. I didn't fold them neatly. Not this time. I tossed dresses, shoes, that stupid pink scarf she said was lucky, all into storage bins. I found 2 burner phones in the back of a drawer. One was dead. The other lit up when I plugged it in, and right there on the lock screen was a selfie. Delia and Kay, together, smiling. Her head on his shoulder, my bookshelf in the background. That nearly broke me, but not quite. I tossed the phone in the box too. Evidence. Before I left, I did something petty. I admit it. I changed the Wi-Fi password to something she'd never guess. HE's_married_2. I also left a note taped to the fridge. Not dramatic. Not cruel. Just a plain piece of paper that said, "Don't knock." The locks have changed, just like everything else. Then I took what mattered. My laptop, a box of old journals, a framed photo of my dad, and the dog, and walked out. Hours later, she called again. 4 times. Then 5. The 6th time, I finally answered. "Where are you?" she asked, panic laced in every syllable. "Where were you for the past year?" I said cold. "That's not fair." "Oh, it's not. Then let me guess. Neither is draining our account? Or bringing him into my house while I was at my mother's funeral? You didn't even wait a week, Delia. A week." She went quiet. And I mean dead quiet. That kind where you can hear the excuses forming, but none of them are brave enough to leave her mouth. "I just want to explain," she started. "No," I cut in. "You want to rewrite the story. And I'm done being the gullible character in it." I hung up before she could finish her sentence. Later that night, I met Riley again. Not in some dim coffee shop, but in her driveway. She'd sent me a short message. "Come by? You should hear this." When I got there, she handed me a small USB stick and said, "I pulled this from the security system at our lake cabin. They didn't know it had audio." I plugged it into my laptop back at the motel, and what I heard made my jaw tighten. They were mocking me. Full-blown laughter. Jokes about my clothes, my voice, my sad little puppy eyes. Kay said I probably read self-help books in the dark. Delia called me loyal to a fault. She said she felt like I was a warm body, not a real partner. Then he said it, the one line that felt like a knife dragged slow across my ribs. "She's mine now." I paused the audio, stared into the screen. No, not anymore. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was overwhelmed, not even from the rage anymore. It was clarity that kept me up. That icy stillness when you finally stop asking why. and instead start planning what comes next. The words, "she's mine now," kept echoing in my head, but not because they hurt. No, by now, they were just fuel, and I knew exactly where to burn it. You see, I didn't just listen to the full recording Riley gave me. I dissected it. I played it back, slowed it down, isolated background noise, followed their words like a map. They weren't just gossiping. They were planning something. Kay, whose full name I now knew was Kellen Duvall, was trying to push Delia to file for separation. She was hesitant, still holding on to the house, probably because of our joint mortgage. But he kept nudging her, saying things like, "Once your name's off the deed, I can bring you in on the investment." An investment. That's what I was now. An obstacle to his next payday. I spent the next morning digging into every scrap of financial information I could access. Tax returns, statements, even her emails. And guess what I found? A shell company tied to Kellen, using an address in Nevada. The kind of thing you open when you're trying to hide money from a spouse. Or, in this case, two spouses. That was the moment I knew. His wife deserved to know everything. Not just that he cheated, but that he used her name, her credit, her trust, to build something meant to leave her behind. So I sent her everything. I drafted the email carefully. No anger, no insults. Just facts. Attachments. Timeline. Screenshots. Even a copy of the voice recording. I wrote one final sentence before hitting send. "You don't know me, but you deserve the truth. What you do next is your choice." I stared at the message sent screen for a full minute, feeling like something inside me had finally been exhaled after holding its breath too long. But that wasn't the end of it. Later that night, Delia showed up. She must have waited near the house until she saw me walk the dog. She pulled up fast, got out of the car, and stood there in the middle of the street like a scene from a movie she thought she was still starring in. "You had no right," she said before I could even speak. "You had no right to contact her." I tilted my head. "I had every right. You brought him into my home. Into our finances. Into me. You think I was just supposed to stay silent while he destroyed 2 marriages?" She looked panicked, but not because she felt bad for what she'd done. No, it was the kind of panic you feel when your carefully constructed lies start to fall apart in front of someone who finally stopped being naive. "Riley told me everything," I added. "About the money, the business, the second phone, the transfer logs. She's lawyering up." Delia's face fell. "You don't understand. Kellen, he told me he was going to leave her. He said he had a plan, that it would be better for both of us." "You believed him," I said flatly. "And you threw away everything we built for a man who drinks from another guy's mug and mocks his loyalty behind closed doors." Her eyes welled up, and for a second, I almost softened. Almost. But then I remembered the video. The laughter. The savings. The lies. "I changed the locks for a reason," I said. "Don't come back." She didn't move. Just stood there, shivering, like she was waiting for a different version of me to show up. The one who would apologize for making her feel guilty. But that man was gone. And the man standing there now? He was finally okay with letting silence answer the door. 3 days passed. No more calls. No knocks on the door. Just radio silence. And for the first time in what felt like years, I began to feel normal again. Not healed, not whole, but functional. Like a man who finally came up for air after drowning in slow motion. I started making lists. Practical ones. What to pack. What to sell. What I wanted to tell my lawyer. And what I absolutely wouldn't allow Delia to twist during the divorce. Then came the dinner invitation from Riley. It wasn't a date. That wasn't even on the table. We were both 2 people walking out of the same fire, smoke-stained and limping. But she said she needed to show me something, and I was curious. She picked the place, some cozy Italian restaurant tucked between an antique bookstore and a closed-down dry cleaner. It smelled like garlic and stories. We sat by the window. She looked stronger this time. No more trembling hands. No sadness in her voice. Just calm, surgical clarity. "I thought you should see this," she said, sliding her phone across the table. On the screen was a text exchange. Her and Kellen. "Kellen, you're blowing everything up over nothing. Riley, you cheated on me in a house I helped build. That's not nothing. Kellen, you always wanted control. Guess what? You just lost it." I blinked. He's still arrogant even when he's caught. She nodded. "And he's not done. That's why I brought you here." She pulled out a manila envelope. Inside were copies of contracts, fake ones, property documents, forged signatures, and a trail of paper designed to shift liability if things fell apart. He's trying to offload everything to Delia before it collapses, she explained. Her name is now tied to the shell company, not his. If this thing sinks, she'll be the one holding the bag. My stomach twisted. Delia had betrayed me, humiliated me, stolen from me, but she didn't deserve this. I didn't know what was worse, that Kellen manipulated her that far, or that she never saw it coming. She thinks she's climbing into a new life, Riley said quietly. But really, she's walking into a legal trap. I sat back in my chair, unsure what to say. Part of me wanted to warn Delia. Another part of me wanted her to feel what betrayal really looked like. I'd been too forgiving for too long. But now I was standing on the edge of something darker, and I didn't trust myself not to jump. Why are you showing me this? I finally asked. Because I think he's going to try to get to you next, she said. To cover his tracks. And I want you prepared. The waiter came by. Neither of us touched the food we'd ordered. After dinner, I walked Riley to her car. She paused before getting in and looked me dead in the eyes. I don't want to see you go down with either of them. Don't let your pain turn into pity. Not for Delia. Not for Kellen. Not for anyone who saw your love as disposable. Then she drove off, her tail lights vanishing into the fog. I stood there in the empty lot, holding the envelope, feeling like I was gripping the last shred of something honest in a story full of liars. That night, back at the house, I poured a glass of wine, not to celebrate, but to mourn. I sat in the kitchen alone, staring at the mug he once used. It was clean now, but I could still feel the weight of his smirk when he said, "She's mine now." I took a slow sip and whispered under my breath, "Not for long." A week later, Delia called again. I didn't answer. Not the first time. Not the second. But on the third try, something inside me told me to pick up, not out of weakness, but out of closure. Her voice was tight, shaky, a far cry from the cold confidence she used to wear like perfume. "They froze my accounts," she said. "Everything's under review. I don't know what's happening." Kellen stopped answering me. His number's disconnected. I waited. She went on, more desperate now. "He said the paperwork was just a formality. He promised I'd have shares. But now I'm being investigated. There's a court date. I'm listed as the sole owner." I leaned against the kitchen counter, calm, steady. "You trusted a man who mocked you behind your back and used you as a front. That was your choice." "You don't understand," she said, almost crying. "I understand perfectly," I replied. "You wanted to start over with someone else. Now you can, just not the way you imagined." She paused. Then, softly, she whispered, "Were you the one who told his wife?" I didn't lie. "Yes." She didn't say another word, just hung up. That was the last time I ever heard from her. Over the next few weeks, things started to shift. My lawyer moved fast. The divorce filing was clean, uncontested. Delia didn't fight for anything. Not the house, not the car, not even the furniture. Maybe she was too busy with court appearances, or maybe she just knew there was nothing left to take. I put the house up for sale. Bought a small fixer-upper on the edge of town. Quiet, far from the chaos. It needed work, but that was the point. I needed to rebuild something with my own hands. Not out of guilt or desperation, but choice. Riley and I kept in touch. Nothing romantic. Just real. We grabbed coffee sometimes, shared articles, even laughed. Honest, warm laughter, the kind that doesn't feel like it's hiding a knife. And slowly, something strange happened. I stopped waking up with a knot in my chest. I started reading again. Journaling. Walking the dog without checking my phone every 5 seconds. Life didn't magically fix itself, but for the first time in years, it belonged to me. And the best part? I wasn't the pathetic one anymore. I was the man who walked through fire, dragging the truth behind him like a banner. I didn't need revenge. I just needed the truth, and I got it. All of it. So to anyone out there feeling like they're invisible, disposable, or replaceable, trust me, the ones who try to erase you are often just scared you'll outlast them. Turns out I did. Thanks for watching Reddit Confessions. If you've ever faced betrayal but came out stronger, we'd love to hear your story. Comment below with a powerful moment in history where the truth changed everything. And remember, no matter how dark the lie, the truth always finds its way to the surface. See you in the next confession.